Hey guys, welcome to tonight's episode of the LGBTQ Voice. For the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about Yes on 3. I feel, and our network feels, it's very important for us to be able to give you some information to better judge or figure out how you're going to vote. So we have Mason Dunn, the Executive Director of Mass Trans Political Coalition, and also co-chair of Yes on 3. And we have Johanna Kaiser, Media Relations Manager for Planned Parenthood Advocacy Fund of Massachusetts. So before we actually talk to our guests, I'm going to figure out how to get Facebook on so I can answer you guys' questions, but I don't see it yet. Is it coming up yet on yours? Oh, here we go. I'm live. Thanks, guys. Just wanted to make sure if you guys have comments, I'd be able to answer them and get back to your questions. So, voting. I want to make sure that you guys know that there's early voting right now. It started yesterday, Monday. So I actually kind of did some research. So in Freetown, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 1, plus Thursday at the Freetown Senior Center, you guys can do early voting. Other than that, you, sorry, I got the address wrong, 227 Chase Road, East Freetown. Somerset is Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4, at Town Office Building. Swansea's Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, at Swansea. That's really funny. Swansea Ambulance Corps. It's 285 Wilbur Ave in Swansea. And Westport, 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday at Town Hall, which is 816 Main Road. And New Bedford at City Hall is Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. So take advantage of the early voting. If we know now that, again, this show right now is pro Yes on 3. And we understand that people are no on Yes on 3, but we are pro. If we can get out there early now to vote, we kind of know where we're going to stand. No, this is not a guaranteed win in our book, so I kind of wanted to put that out there. So, yeah, let's talk about Yes on 3 real quick. If you guys don't know what the law is or what's going on, I'm just going to read it to you. The law adds gender identity to the list of prohibited grounds for discrimination in places of public accommodation, resort, or amusement. Such grounds also include race, color, religion, creed, national origin, sex, disability, and ancestry. A place of public accommodation, resort, or amusement is defined in existing law as any place that is open to and accepts or solicits the patronage of the general public, such as hotels, stores, restaurants, theaters, sports facilities, and hospitals. Gender identity is defined as a person's sincerely held gender-related identity, appearance, or behavior, whether or not it is different from that traditionally associated with a person's physiology or assigned sex at birth. This law discrimination based on gender identity and a person's admission to or treatment in any places of public accommodation. The law requires any such place that has separate areas for male and female, such as restrooms, to allow access to and full use of these areas consistent with a person's gender identity. The law also prohibits the owner or manager of a place of public accommodations from using advertising or signage that discriminates on the basis of gender identity. So again, what was it, October 2016 is when the law went into effect. So we want to make sure that we, meaning the network, and I represent the network, and probably our youth center and a bunch of other places, that we keep this law going. So we're going to ask you guys some questions, but before we do, tell us a little about yourself, Mason.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I am co-chair of the Yes on 3 campaign, but I've been working ever since 2013 as executive director of the Mass Trans Political Coalition and continue that work as well. I was here and lobbied for the passage of the Public Accommodations Non-Discrimination Law back in, started in 2013 and then moved to the 2016 passage. I'm a lawyer as well as a lobbyist, a trans person myself, and I use he, him, his pronouns.
Oh, I always say she nouns. I go by she, her, hers.
Great.
So, and Johanna?
Yeah, so I'm the Media Relations Manager for Planned Parenthood Advocacy Fund of Massachusetts and Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts. So I get to write and talk about all the work Planned Parenthood does, both in the healthcare field and sex education field, as well as the political arm, working on Beacon Hill and in coalition to help pass laws and support organizations to pass things like the transgender accommodation law and fight for the Yes on 3 ballot campaign.
Oh, great. One of the things we try and talk about each week on our shows is just different topics. We actually had a show of LGBTQ folks who chose to be parents. Mm-hmm. So we actually had 2 women, and one wife was going to have a child with the same father, donor, and the other wife as well. But one of the women couldn't conceive, so one woman had the 2 kids, but they had the second mom adopt the kids just in case the laws change and things happen. That could happen. We actually had a woman who was a surrogate for 2 gay men who couldn't have their own kids. We actually did a show of LGBTQ parents who have kids, and then then we had them on the show, and then children who had gay parents were on the show. So we did definitely different aspects on our show of parenthood or Planned Parents, and we also promote at our youth center, hopefully safer choices for sexual education, things like that. So let's get back to this. So why are you fighting for question 3?
Sure. So Planned Parenthood is fighting for question 3 because we understand that transgender rights are reproductive rights, and reproductive rights are transgender rights. We are guided by the idea that everyone has the right to control their own body and their own futures, and that's what this is about. We feel that when a transgender person walks into a public accommodation, whether that's a medical provider like Planned Parenthood health centers or anywhere else, they should be treated with respect and dignity and have no doubt in their minds that they will be safe and respected.
So what have you been doing to protect the laws of the trans law?
Yeah, so Planned Parenthood Advocacy Fund was really, really proud to be part of the coalition that helped pass the 2016 law.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I apologize, folks. Thanks. Go ahead.
And so when this question made it to the ballot, we wanted to get involved, and the Yes on 3 campaign is actually the first ballot campaign that we've ever supported and endorsed in our history, because we know that an attack on one is an attack on us all, and we want to stand against these attacks with our community and care for our patients. We serve people of all genders, and so we know this is really, really important to the health and well-being of the people who rely on us for health care, and we want to be there for them and care for them inside our health center and outside of it.
One of our youth that was transitioning female to male hadn't come for a while, and then he had a baby, and I was like, all right, I missed something, but we never know who you're gonna date, who you're gonna be with, and what happens in your life. But just kind of things like that. I mean, I don't know, I kind of old school in my head, and I'm like, how did that happen, But it's amazing that these organizations and groups are here to help our community. We have Greater New Bedford Health down here in New Bedford that helps a lot. Seven Hills Behavioral Health helps our, they have a lot of gay men and things like that, and HIV testing and whatnot. So just to get this extra point of view, especially from Planned Parenthood, is amazing, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say that people of all genders need sexual and reproductive health care, and we're always happy and proud to provide it.
So what can people do to help your organization out, or you have information? People can email you or contact you folks with questions?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of our general health care, visiting PlannedParenthood.org if you're looking for an appointment or any information like that. Another great resource we have is a sexual health counseling and referral hotline. So folks around the state and around the country can call us to get objective information and support to make appointments or learn where they should get health care, even if it's a service that Planned Parenthood doesn't provide. We'll help connect folks to the right service.
Oh, cool.
And that number, I'll just give it a shout out, is 1-800-258-4448, and it's option number 3.
Option 3. So Dennis DeMello says, I love that Planned Parenthood is helping with this vote. They get such a bad rep for only caring about abortions and other BS. And I've always said they go above and beyond that for people, and it's good to see how true it is. Thank you for all your help. Damon Rodriguez says, yes, love you guys. Not sure if you guys know Damon Rodriguez.
No.
Could be a friend of ours. I'm sorry if I don't recognize. I apologize. I'm trying to see where we're at. And that's all we have so far that people say. So, let's see. You already said that. So where are you guys located?
Yeah, so we have 5 health centers across the state. We have an office health center in Boston, Boston, Worcester, Springfield, as well as Fitchburg and Marlborough.
So nothing this close?
Nothing this close,
Yeah.
but we do work with providers across the state to connect people and make sure they have
The
a
resources.
seamless transition and resources are available. So, there is Health Imperatives, New Bedford Family Planning on Orchard Street, where folks can go to receive preventive family planning services. It's one great location, and we're always available through the counseling and referral hotline I mentioned to connect folks to things in their area.
Oh, that's terrific. Maureen Suzanne says, thank you, Planned Parenthood, and there's a big, happy, smiling heart, which is terrific. So what do you feel is the overall attitude on question 3, from what you guys are, I know it's for both of us.
Yeah, well, our supporters were really, really excited to hear that we were taking on this work, and they've been really fired up to get on the phones, to start door knocking, and share why this is important to them. And we're really hearing a lot of support, but we also want to make clear that, nothing is guaranteed. We are living in a bit of a crazy political time, so we want to make sure that we're all being active and getting out there to vote, because the world is looking at Massachusetts right now. We have a reputation as a leader, and we have to make sure that we fulfill that reputation by getting out and voting yes on 3 and protecting trans folks across the state.
Yeah, and I couldn't have said it better. We are certainly not taking anything for granted here. On the campaign, we have folks canvassing and phone banking almost every day from now until the vote November 6th. And so we are just doing everything we can to let people know about it. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about what a yes vote means, what a no vote means, and things like that. Just to clear that up, since I bring it up, a yes vote means that you support the law that has been on the books for 2 years to include trans non-discrimination protections in public accommodations. And so a yes vote, we've been saying, yes for dignity, yes for equality, yes on 3. And so I think that we're thinking about things like voter confusion and just raising awareness and doing everything we can, everything in our power to get people out to know about this and to make sure they vote.
So speaking of that, I received a message from Freedom for All Massachusetts. I'm looking at my phone. Freedom for All Massachusetts, guys. It's just going to be a phone bank down here in New Bedford, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, from 11 to 2 and 5 to 7 at 105 William Street. If you want more information, you can contact me, and I know AJ is putting it up on our header, traci@sclgbtqnetwork.org. And it's terrific. So if you get even if it's only an hour, basically people are like, oh my God, I don't know how to do it. They work you through the whole program. You can use your cell phone. You log into the site. Nobody gets your phone number to call you back to harass you if that's what you're thinking. And then you call, and it basically rings to Jane. And you ask Jane, how does she feel about question 3? Does she voting yes, maybe, no? And then you kind of move forward from there. So it's a step in the right direction. If you have an hour for lunch, we're right down here in New Bedford, 105 William Street. Show up. But if you need more information, you can contact me, and then I'll let Doreen know. And Doreen's running that for us this week here down here in New Bedford. So. That's
great. And I've seen a lot of people in the last few days, especially given some of the news out of the White House administration working to erase gender identity from federal administrations and the memo that was released about that. And a lot of folks are saying, well, I want to do something to help. I want to be involved. I want to make sure that we protect trans rights. And this is a really great way to show up and make sure that you're doing something so that we ensure we keep the protections here in Massachusetts regardless of what happens at the federal level.
Well, the other thing, too, we're talking about is even if we get close and we win by 52% of the votes, other states, the people that are trying to say no for us, are going to say, hey, they're a progressive state. You guys can change that now and go back, and go back to the way it used to be. So we need 70%, we need 80%. We need more than you can possibly imagine because we set the tone. Marriage equality passed in 2004 in Massachusetts. How many years later did it take to hit another state? Was it Rhode Island? God help me. I love you guys, Rhode Island. And next state. We are the first state, so we need to make sure we protect our trans family. One of the things that scares me is that offline, we talked earlier, we had a campaign on National Coming Out Day here in New Bedford. Come support our trans family. And one person came. It was shared on several media sites, New Bedford Dems, South Coast something, all these places. so, advertise it, help us share the post, and one person showed up. When we went to the first event from Freedom for All Massachusetts in Fall River, a dozen of us came. And three of us from our organization, and one was somebody that we knew that participates in community events. So that's scary. They have a whole thing from Freedom, Massachusetts down the south end of Mass, because from what I gathered when we talked, all the emphasis was up north, and now it's coming this way. But it's better late than never. The voting is November 6th. We've got plenty of time. We talked about earlier voting when we first started the show. I'm voting tomorrow. Come down and see me. I'll be down at City Hall. I'm going to place my vote tomorrow. That way we know that, you know what, Traci, check one. Traci's good to go. And then we can work on where we stand. I just think it's going to be scary out there. Let's see. So how long has Planned Parenthood existed?
Sure. So Planned Parenthood was founded about 102 years ago in New York, and since then there's been affiliates established in every state. Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts was founded about 90 years ago, and some of the first work we were doing before providing health care was being an educator. And Planned Parenthood continues to be a leading sex educator of folks around the country, and we make sure all our sex ed is LGBT inclusive. So that means making sure whether it's a school-based curriculum or parent education, helping parents talk to their kids about sexual health, or training teachers, or our peer education program, that we're making sure that the lives and health needs and relationships of LGBTQ youth are represented in that work, because they deserve to be represented. And there's also, when we look at healthcare disparities, education is a big factor in some of those barriers to care. So closing disparities we see around STI rates, unintended teen pregnancy, and even when we look at sex ed, for example, looking at rates of sexual assault. A big part of sex education is teaching people what consent means and to ask for it and look at that. So we know LGBTQ youth generally face higher rates of sexual assault, and so this is our education programs and our work are part of addressing that as well. So that's a huge part of our work.
So a couple Saturdays ago, we actually met Mason at Bagley. So one of the organizations that is part of the network is NB Agley, and we actually met with all the Agleys in Massachusetts. Mason was actually like our keynote speaker for that event and talking to the kids, and some of the questions were pretty cool, that the kids asked. I don't think they realize that their rights could be taken away until like that moment. And those kids asked you, and they're like, no, that's it. It's gone. Doesn't mean you can't still go into a restaurant. Doesn't mean you can't. What it means is they can now tell you you can't be here anymore, that you have to leave. So I thought that was kind of like eye-opening for a lot of people. And I even asked you the question about if we lose this law, can we get it back?
Right.
You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And, right now we're just so focused on keeping the law that, we haven't done... we have to pour everything we have into keeping this law, because if it is rolled back, there's the possibility of going through legislature. There's all sorts of possibilities that we will strategize should we need to. But at this point,
there's a bug flying around.
No worries. But we really just need to make sure that we maintain and keep our law and preserve it through the vote. And it's not just about this vote in Massachusetts either. As you mentioned earlier, these anti-LGBTQ activists, these are the same folks who fought against marriage equality, the same folks who have been fighting against transgender rights for many years. They have said if they win or get close to winning here in Massachusetts, they're going to go to other states and work on rolling back transgender rights in any other state they can. So it's not just our rights here in Massachusetts that are at stake. It is the entire country for transgender equality that is at stake. And we just need to continue to do the work to make sure we maintain these rights, maintain this law, so that we can also focus on so many other issues of transgender rights and equality that are really critical at this moment.
It's probably good for business as well. I mean, think about it. Other states don't have it. They're like, you know what, I'm going to move to Massachusetts. I'm safe, I'm good. On the role reversal, I've been living here for 5 years. We have this law, I'm protected. My business says, hey, listen, we have opportunity to move somewhere else. And those laws, now you're not protected.
Well, and we also look at North Carolina and what happened with House Bill 2 a few years ago in North Carolina when they rolled back similar non-discrimination protections, and they lost millions of dollars in state revenue and business And I think that we could potentially see something similar to that should we roll back these rights. Businesses will know that their employees won't be protected in public accommodations and will take their business elsewhere.
I was talking to Kevin offline that I want to go to Eastern Bank. Eastern Bank has been so great on Facebook. I keep seeing the ads, you know. I want to hit them up, see if they want to come on the show and talk about why they, you know, as a bank, I've seen some of the negative comments, so I'm taking my money elsewhere. Well, it is what it is. Go ahead, take your money elsewhere.
Bob Rivers at Eastern Bank and Nancy Steger at Eastern Bank have been some of the most critical allies and advocates on this law, but also have showed up for many years. They've been a part of this work for years, and they value their trans employees, their trans customers, and make sure that they show up for those rights and so many other social justice causes. So I think Eastern Bank is a fantastic coalition and part of the Yes on 3 campaign, one of the hundreds of businesses that are a part of the Yes on 3 campaign.
Yeah, I just think it's amazing to see all the sponsored ad. Who was the biggest opposition?
So our biggest opposition as an organization that's known as the Massachusetts Family Institute,
Yep.
And they are one of the critical components of the No on 3 campaign, and they have been doing this work. The Mass Family Institute has been doing anti-LGBTQ work for many, many years. They are a well-known entity to us. These are similar people who were fighting against marriage equality back in 2004 and before. And so they are pretty well established in their views and their fight against our community.
I also had Keep Mass Safe on my list.
Keep Massachusetts Safe is the No on 3 campaign, and so it is made up, it is a coalition, much like Yes on 3, we are a coalition of many organizations. The No on 3 and Keep Massachusetts Safe are a coalition of a variety of organizations led by the Massachusetts Family Institute.
So, most common misconception about the trans law?
Well, there's the misconception that somehow we're passing something. What we are doing is actually affirming a law that has been on the books for over 2 years now. The law was passed in July of 2016 and went into effect October 1st of 2016. It has been on the books without incident or issue for several years now, or a number of years, and that is one of those misconceptions. There's also the misconception that I mentioned earlier about a yes vote. A yes vote means that you want to keep the law, that you believe it should remain the law, and so that is the pro-trans, trans rights vote is a yes on 3 vote. And the last thing I'll say is the misnomer about the bathroom law or the bathroom bill. And as you mentioned earlier, you read it through the law. What we're talking about are non-discrimination protections in places of public accommodation. That means any place that is open to or solicits the patronage of the public. And so we're talking about restaurants and hospitals and health centers and parks and libraries. And yes, bathrooms are covered in as much as there is a bathroom at the library. But we are also talking about the ability to check out the book at the library, taking the bus to get to the library, walking down the sidewalk or through the park on the way to the library. All of those are public accommodations as well, and that's what's at stake.
So I have, I'm going to probably say your name wrong, Urielio Amaral. I have respect for everyone. I keep it binary. So thank you for that. I apologize if I totally screwed up your name, guys. God help me. So what have you been doing to protect trans laws? Like not just for today, but yesterday and going forward?
And today, yesterday, so personally, I've been a trans rights advocate for many years, working in California and Oregon and New Hampshire and now here in Massachusetts, working on trans-inclusive policies for businesses, for schools, for local ordinances, all the way up to state law. And so I was involved in the fight to pass this law back in 2016, and the predecessor to this, we didn't pass it in the 2013 session as well. And we've been, to make sure that we keep this law, we've been working every day, canvassing, phone banking, talking to folks online, on the media, newspapers, really just having conversations. And I think that is the often overlooked, really critical work of all of this, is just having conversations with people. A lot of people say they don't know somebody who's trans, or they don't know somebody who they know is trans.
Probably don't even realize they don't know.
Exactly. And so I think it's really important that we humanize trans identities and experiences, and by having conversations as a trans person or having conversations as somebody who works with trans people, loves a trans person in your life, we really need to humanize and work on humanizing our identities and experiences around this law. And that's been some of the work we do, is just let's have a conversation about why this is important to me, and why I hope at the end of this conversation this will be important to you too.
I thought there was another comment. Something else came up on Facebook. Sorry,
No
guys. So resources for people who want to learn more.
Sure. So to learn more about how to get involved with the campaign and what the campaign is all about, you can go to freedommassachusetts.org. It's the word freedom, the word massachusetts.org. And you can also check out the Mass Trans Political Coalition. Our website is masstpc.org. That's M-A-S-S-T as in transgender, P as in political, C as in coalition.org. And so those are two websites you can go to take a look. You can also follow us on social media. Just search for Freedom Massachusetts or Yes on 3 here in Mass, and you'll get some great information and great things to share with your networks and friends and all sorts of stuff.
And then you have Facebook pages as well.
Yes, yeah.
So I was checking them out, doing research and whatnot.
Sure.
So I know that you're a trans individual, but why did you get involved originally? I know you said you were from state to state to state. What was it first that said, you know what, today's a day and I'm stepping up and
Yeah, you know, I have loved working on social justice issues for as long as I can remember, but when I was in college, I really got motivated to say I want to do something about my rights, and I was living in California at the time, and things like Prop 8 were coming up in California and all sorts of LGBTQ issues, and I said, now's the time. I don't want to be passive while other people discuss my rights. I want to be a part of the movement. And so I worked in California and then Oregon and then worked in New Hampshire on the early trans rights law that failed in 2009 but just passed last year for non-discrimination in New Hampshire for gender identity. And then I actually went to law school and thought that I wanted to, well, I know I wanted to work on social justice, so I felt like I needed to learn more about justice itself and the justice system. So I went to law school, and soon after law school I worked with the ACLU of New Hampshire on trans rights, and now I'm here working on trans rights with the Mass Trans Political Coalition and Yes on 3 campaign.
The good thing is your office is the same building as Bagley.
We are. So we are very deeply linked with Bagley. And that's part of our mission as well, is recognizing the fact that the youth have driven our movement from very early days, and we want to make sure we always remain attentive to and inclusive of trans and non-binary and gender non-conforming youth, so that they are always a part of our work and our conversations.
So guys, just to let you guys know, Bagley is the Alliance of Gay and Lesbian Youth from Massachusetts, and as you guys know, I'm one of the adult advisors of 4, and Kevin, to my right, your left, is one of our peer leaders for that group. And we do a lot in the community, you know, to kind of keep our kids, I guess, active in what's going on. We did a show, and we actually had some of our youth, some of our elders on our show, and they want to become mature now, so it's some of our mature audience, and they answered questions out of the hat. And we got done with the show, and the elder said, I thought my work was done. You know, we're like, no, it's not, it's not. It's actually 4 of the elders helped us with this year's New Bedford Pride.
That's great.
So they actually volunteered. So they're like, listen, you need to come back. It's not done yet. That's nothing guaranteed.
And you know, I think that we see that a lot within the larger LGBTQ plus community. There's this assumption that we passed marriage equality, we're done. And there are so much more to be done, particularly in trans rights and particularly with some of the newest federal administration's attacks against transgender people. Our work is far from done.
You know, our network, and I talk about the groups that we have, we get emails and private messages on Facebook. We have kids who need help. Can you help us? And we're like, well, we don't have a group. So we started one. It's called the Rainbow Club, and I'm going to read it out loud. Wednesdays from 6:30 to 7:30 at 484 Pleasant Street, New Bedford, our community center. We actually, your 8 to 13-year-olds come with their parents. So they'll get the resources. The kids can kind of talk with each other and kind of understand what's going on. So we started from 8 to 13. Our AGLE, which is NB AGLE, does 14 to 24. Others do till 22. HIV is so on the rise in our area that we extended it to 24, and we did Pride Cafe. All out of the 484 Pleasant Street guys. So Pride Cafe is Mondays, it's an 18-plus group. Kevin, what do they do there?
Oh, it's yoga before that.
Oh, I forgot about yoga. Yeah, we have yoga beforehand. Yoga's from 5:30 to 6:30, and then from 7 to 9, it's just people hanging out, talking different topics. Could be a movie night, a game night. This Monday, I'm going to come and maybe videotape some folks and see how they feel, where they stand on, our question 3. We're going to give a shout out to our community center for helping on our kids. And we actually have the Fairhaven Counseling on Aging. They actually have a monthly supper club. They're canceled this month, but usually it's the 4th Wednesday of every month. They kind of get together, and all the seniors, the mature, get together. They have a dinner, and they're part of our network as well. Yeah, honey. 7:30?
Yeah.
All right, so we actually have a sponsored ad tonight, so we're actually going to break off and do that ad for you. We'll be right back.
I'm Mark Santos, your Bristol County Clerk of Courts. One of my office's many responsibilities, proudly, is the naturalization of qualified aliens as American citizens. If re-elected, I will continue to uphold the rights of all people in Bristol County and to make sure your Superior Court works for you. I'm Mark Santos, your Clerk of Courts, and I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 6th.
Paid for by the Santos Committee.
Back to me. Hey guys, that was one of our first ads. I know last week we had an ad as well. So every time that an ad is placed on our page, we get 50% of the proceeds. People are like, 50%, where does it go? Well, we have production costs. We actually have the studio. The Bedford Guide has over 102,000 people on the Bedford Guide Facebook page. And, for us to start from scratch and build up to that audience, we'd have to spend a lot of years. It could be 3 to 5 years before we get to where we're at right now. Then the proceeds go to help the youth groups that we talked about, 8 to 13, the Pride Cafe. NB Agley, we get money from Bagley. However, we do other grant writings for internships and whatnot, and equipment for the show. I mean, depends on what we're doing. We do New Bedford Pride, which is now called South Coast Pride. We actually have Sober Out too. We started an AA group, Gay AA at our center. So that's going to be Sundays from 9 to 10. So every time, an ad is placed, we get some proceeds. So AJ, can you possibly put the ad up just for a moment? I'll read mine while you pop it up. So contact Leo at newbedfordguide.com, and a Rainbow sponsor is, we're looking for a person to give us $1,000. You'll get 10 30-second to 1-minute segment commercials, and somebody from the Bedford Guide will actually come down and shoot the commercial for you, which is terrific. And then we put one ad for the 10 shows. So we have a commercial spot for you for 10 shows. The gold sponsor is $500, guys. It's a 1-hour show, your takeover. Whatever you want to talk about, you come on, you discuss it. It's your platform. We give you a link to your website, your Facebook page, your featured logo, mentioned on the Facebook event page, and on the live show header. So right now, hey, my bottom one's missing. You didn't put it on today. But usually on the bottom it says the LGBTQ Voice, and it does as well on the top. Your logo, your business will take over the whole logo, the whole header, and people will be able to see what you have. A silver sponsor is a 7 to 10 minute spot on the show. I invited these guys to come on. Let's just say next time they come on, they would pay me in the show $350. I don't get paid technically. $350 for a 7 to 10 minute segment of the show. And again, it'll be a link to your Facebook webpage, your featured logo, mention on Facebook event page. We have a bronze sponsor for $100. It's basically the same thing as a rainbow sponsor, but it's just one ad. But you have to come up with the ad. New Bedford Guy isn't going to come to you to do a 30-second or a minute commercial. If you want any more information, you can contact me or Leo at newbedfordguide.com. So we're going to get back to this topic, but I actually have a response from Paulo Rodriguez Catiro. I respect everyone, whatever gender they choose, but this is ridiculous. So you're saying if I'm a pervert, I can put on a skirt and some lipstick and use the ladies' restroom. Please shut up. So
yeah, let me actually respond to that. So this law that we're talking about has nothing to do with criminal law. It doesn't change criminal law. And the law explicitly states that it cannot be used for any criminal purposes. So if somebody goes into a restroom, locker room, or any business with intent to cause harm or commit a crime,
Yep.
they will be held accountable for that crime. So if an individual put on a skirt with an intention of going into a restroom inconsistent with their gender identity to commit a crime, that crime is still a crime. But what isn't a crime is our gender identity. And what we want to say is that, and what we want to ensure is that a trans person can go to the library without experiencing discrimination or harassment. But this has nothing to do with criminal law, changes no criminal law, and we've actually seen that there has been no increase in criminal incidents since this law has passed. And so I think that's really important to point out, and I think that's why, I know that's why a number of the safety advocates in our state, including many of the women's and children's organizations that are dedicated specifically to keeping women safe and working around women's rights and safety advocacy, as well as many police officers and police organizations, all say that yes on 3, yes to keep this law, because they know it doesn't make anybody less safe, and in fact makes us all safer.
Go ahead, I thought you had a thought.
Oh yeah, I was just going to have that. As a leading advocate for women's health and a healthcare provider that serves people of all genders, we fundamentally support the Yes on 3 campaign because we believe that everyone should be able to access the healthcare and the services that they need. And we were really, really proud to be part of a campaign featuring several groups who care for survivors of sexual assault and survivors of domestic violence to reject this notion that this somehow creates a less safe environment, and to say that we stand with trans folks and we believe that every person, not just cisgender women, deserve the right to control their body and feel safe where they are. So for us as an organization that cares for women, young women and survivors of assault, we completely support Yes on 3. And as Mason said, have seen the past 2 years that there have been no increased incidents of anything, and that this really is a law that creates a safer, more welcoming space for everyone without putting anyone else at risk.
Yeah. I appreciate your comment, and it's not as bad as some of them I've seen. Thank you for that. But we have kids that are out there right now that are taking responsibility for themselves, or saying, you know what, this is who I am. And at an early age, at one of our shows that we talked about probably like 2 months ago, you guys, your organization helped us have a guest on our show. And why do you wait till you're 50 or 40 to transition? Well, when they were 8 or 9, they were told they can't. Wait till after high school, or wait till after college, or you can't while you're in your job. And now they're older and they feel more comfortable in what they're doing. Is that we want people to live and be who they are today. Why should I have to wait 30 years for my right today? And we talked about, we had a civil rights show. Could you imagine again if we now had a black bathroom, a white bathroom, and a transgender bathroom, and a male bathroom, and a female bathroom? It's just, we're going backwards. And marriage equality passed in 2004, and I don't want to go backwards. I want to keep going forward to where we're at. It just kills me to have this guy here, I know. Excuse me, guys. We have transitioning youth at our center, and I'd be heartbroken to go somewhere with them. We go to Boston Pride, we go to P-Town Carnival, we go to Bagley Pride. They have a prom afterwards. Could you imagine that we're at the State House in their building, and they, oh, by the way, you can't use that restroom. But we're here as an organizational group supporting each other. Oh yeah, by the way, that would just kill me. Let's see. So we already talked about the consequences, but I kind of want to get into that. If we don't win this, if we repeal this, I feel for our kids. At our Rainbow Club, I met an 8-year-old young woman, male or female, and I would not even have known that it was a young boy at one point. 8 years old, transitioning, proud, and I think 8 years old, and then probably these people here, or other people, why are their parents letting them choose this?
Right.
So I know you're...
Well, and a couple things on that. One is that, to keep in mind that 8-year-old trans youth, 10-year-old trans youth, 14-year-old trans youth, they don't have the ability to vote on their rights. And those are the folks who are going to feel this the most. We've already seen that the anti-trans climate has been more and more toxic as we see national conversations that are working to erase our identities, where people are being more hateful towards trans youth. And so we know that these are the folks who are going to experience this the most, especially if we lose this vote. And keep in mind, we have non-discrimination protections in employment, housing, credit and lending, as well as education. That's not changing. Yeah. And so the trans youth can go to school knowing that they cannot be discriminated against or experience discrimination in schools, regardless of what happens with this vote. But when they're going to the library after school, that is a public accommodation. When they're taking the city bus to an event, that's a public accommodation. Going to the museum is a public accommodation. And they should have just as much right to access those spaces as they do their school. And so it's so important that we show up and vote as a community, as allies to the trans community, not only for our individual rights or the rights of people we love, but for the trans youth who can't vote on their rights. And that's what's so scary to me. I think, from a climate and community perspective, if we don't win this vote, I really do worry about what that message is to our youth and to our community, to say that this state does not want to see you in public, that you can exist at home or at work or at school, but we don't want to see you existing in public.
I think the suicide rate is going to increase.
We'll see.
The homelessness is going to increase.
Yeah.
There's going to be so many things that, HIV, we're already, New Bedford's top 5, top 10 in the state in HIV right now. It's just like...
I think we'll see a lot of really scary statistics and realities for trans people, and particularly trans youth. Before we passed this law, we saw in a study done by the Mass Trans Political Coalition and Fenway Health, we surveyed trans people in the state of Massachusetts, and we saw that 65% reported experiencing discrimination in public spaces. The highest rate was actually in transportation. And so I think that 65% number is something that we will likely see increase should we lose this law and see that those issues of discrimination really rise as a result of a anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ toxic climate.
Well, one of the questions, I'm going to skip to it now. Have you ever experienced discrimination in a public place for being trans? And have you ever been asked to leave a public place for being trans? And was this before or after the law here, or I know you live in other states?
Personally, yeah. I have experienced discrimination in a public space, actually in Boston many years ago, and I was asked to leave and removed by security on the basis of my gender identity and gender expression. And that sticks with you. You remember that. And that was long before this law. I would now, with this law in place in the current environment right now, I would have the ability to hold that business accountable for removing me on the basis of my gender identity or gender expression. But at the time, I didn't have that right, and I never went back to that store.
So we actually did a show discrimination, and we actually had somebody that from the New Bedford office was here. There's this place in New Bedford that if you guys are discriminated against, you can just walk right in and put a case in. And I apologize. I'll have that for next week's show. I'll get you guys that information because I got an email this past week and somebody asked me, was talking to me about it, and I gave them the information. It's a trans individual being harassed at work, saying they're not using my right pronouns. And I'm like, well, did you talk to your boss? And they go, I have. Have you brought it to HR? I have. I said, well, then wait and say, listen, if I don't hear back or you don't get an answer, I need to take these next steps for me. So next week, guys, I'll make sure I have that name and number for you.
And just to throw that a few resources out there, the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination is the state agency that handles and addresses issues of discrimination, including gender identity, as well as the Massachusetts Attorney General's office. Their Office of Civil Rights can also address and work with you around issues of discrimination in employment, in school, or in public spaces, so long as we have the law.
Cheryl McLaughlin says, hi Brian, miss you at Greater New Bedford GNBCHC.
Okay.
Greater New Bedford something health clinic. There's so many letters I know, like this, like our network has too many letters. Guys, I just want to let you know that on Facebook there's 2 events going on right now, one in Rhode Island and one in Boston. So this Sunday, October 28th, there's a rally for transgender rights at Robert Gould's Shaw and 54th Regiment Memorial. It's on Beacon Street, and it says they're near the stairs leading up to the State House. And it's this Sunday from 1 to 3, and I will be there. I will be bringing our video system, our video cam, and broadcasting what's going on, maybe do some live interviews with some folks, and shoot that on next week's show. I also want to promote right now that Saturday, November 3rd in Boston, excuse me, that was Boston, November 3rd from 11 to 1, it will be We Will Not Be Erased, Rally for Transgender Rights on Smith Street in Providence. So the people that are doing the Rhode Island one will be next week's guests, and we'll have a couple other guests as well. But there's 2 big rallies, one in Boston and one in Rhode Island. Get your butts there. Even if you say no, and I know this guy Paulo said no, go listen to what these people have to say, or our families, our trans sisters, our brothers have to say. And maybe you'll change your mind. Maybe you won't, but maybe you will. And one more ad I wanted to kind of put out there. We actually had, when we first started the network, we had 12 organizations, but now we formed a board. But anytime they have an event, I said, let me know. So WYCA Fall Festival is October 24th from 6 to 9. The Sail Loft Restaurant in South Dartmouth, 246 South Dartmouth. 10% of all the proceeds of the food and beverages will benefit the YWCA programs and services. So I want to kind of give them some shout outs. And don't forget that about our phone. I almost said food bank. God help me. Phone bank. Let's see. Any other questions? It's kind of loaded for the questions, but so I know you have an event tomorrow. Do you want to talk about that? Yeah,
we have an event happening also in Boston tomorrow. Really excited to bring Laverne Cox to Boston to talk about Yes on 3. For folks who don't know, she is a trans actress featured on the show Orange is the New Black. And she's done some amazing work for trans rights and trans advocacy, and she's coming to Massachusetts to help us hopefully win Yes on 3. And she'll be with us in the Bagley offices tomorrow. But like I said, we have events every day across the state. You don't have to come to Boston necessarily to be involved with the campaign. We have phone banks, the phone banks you listed coming up. We have phone banks and canvassing events all across the state. From as I often say, Pittsfield to Provincetown, we have events going on. So please be involved and reach out to freedommassachusetts.org to find any events happening in your area that you want to get involved, help us knock on doors, phone calls, or just come say hi.
Yeah, it's a Facebook page. It's real simple. Every time I just like the page and I see what's going on, and I just kind of like, oh, look, that's what's going on. Oh, that's what's going on. Again, if you only have an hour, I know Rebecca, our network, she's the president of our organization, she had a couple hours. She's done a couple hours here, a couple hours there. It's not a full-time job that they're asking you to do, but if you guys have some spare time, you can do an hour.
Yeah, and even if, so I will totally admit I'm an introvert, so the idea of canvassing and phone banking sometimes is really hard for me. But 2 ways to get involved if you're an introvert like me. The first is you can donate. We are really working hard to make sure we raise the funds to get our ads up on the air. And so you can go to freedommassachusetts.org to donate today if you have the capacity. Any amount is helpful right now. Or if you don't have the capacity to donate and maybe phone banking in a room full of people feels really intimidating, you can actually phone bank from home. You can sit on your couch in your PJs and get on your cell phone. We have a whole system. You can check it out on the website and phone bank from home. So you don't even have to go anywhere to really have an impact and do something about this. And you can do that anywhere in the country. So you can be watching in California, and you can phone bank for trans rights in Massachusetts from California.
So our Rhode Island friends out there,
yes,
you're really close to us. I know I keep putting up my phone. I'll put it up there. Dude, you guys can call. I mean, I said today, I know Yes on 3, something came to a private message on Facebook to tell us today that you're going to vote yes. So I actually shared it on a bunch of my Facebook friends' pages, and hopefully they kind of shared it. So we talk about the commercials.
Yeah.
You know?
We have some really fantastic commercials that we've already shot. They're already ready to go. The problem is that the media market is very expensive, and so getting a commercial up on the air, not just in Boston, but the Springfield market as well, can be really expensive. And so we need to fundraise to be able to get our ads up on the air. We've purchased a limited amount of time on the air for the upcoming week, so you might be seeing our ads, which is great, but we got to keep those ads going till November 6th, and so we need folks' help to raise the funds to get that up on the air as soon as possible for as long as possible. Our opponents already have their messaging up on the air, their commercials going, their radio messages going, and so we need to be able to counter that. I love the ad that we have ready to go because it features a trans young person and his family talking about why this is important to them. And I think it's really important that we raise up the voices of trans youth and their families, their supportive families where we can. And so this ad does just that.
Cool. Yeah, the negative ad that's out there is God help me. Well, I saw the one with the guys peeking through the woman at the locker room. I have not seen the one with a young child who's peeking under the stall. I haven't seen that one yet. But as a parent, I have one kid who's 31 and I have a foster parent who's 16. Even when my kid was that little, why are you letting your kid climb under a stall anyway?
Well, the anti-transgender activists who are leading the charge for No on 3 really rely on fear messaging and scare tactics.
Yeah.
We are trying to lead with messages of inclusivity, love, compassion, empathy, and really equality and respect and dignity for all. And so I'm hoping, I know that the state of Massachusetts,
sorry guys.
I know that the state of Massachusetts supports the rights and dignity of all people. We just need folks to get out and support that vote with a vote yes on 3.
Lynn, do you have anything you want to add to it? I'm sorry, I don't know why I said Lynn, excuse me. Please.
I would just add that I second everything you say. You know, we right now are fighting many fronts in our communities, and it's so important that we all stand shoulder to shoulder and say that, you know, we will not allow our friends and families to be erased or discriminated against or hurt. And when we talk about why we're supporting Yes on 3, it's about people. We're all just trying to go about our day and live our lives, and this is about sticking together and making sure everyone is taken care of, and that's what a vote on Yes on 3 does, is make sure everyone is welcome in Massachusetts and creating an inclusive environment where everyone can live their healthiest, most fullest life.
Sweet. So we have one more commercial, and then I'm going to come back and do some parting stuff. I don't know what time it is.
7.
Oh, God help me.
Hi, I'm Mark Santos, your Bristol County Clerk of Courts. One of my office's many responsibilities, proudly, is the naturalization of qualified aliens as American citizens. If re-elected, I will continue to uphold the rights of all people in Bristol County and to make sure your Superior Court works for you. I'm Mark Santos, your Clerk of Courts, and I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 6th.
Paid for by the Santos Committee.
And we're back. Thanks, guys. So we have 2 commercial spots. So if you guys want to place an ad or a commercial, and even if it's no on 3, you know, you want to come on, you want to talk about next week's show, hit me up at Traci at sclgbtqnetwork.org. As long as you're respectful, that's all I ask for. You know, we talk as we do. Even in our network meetings, I mean, there's a dozen of us, we just talk. We don't always agree, but we agree to disagree. So next week, again, it's going to be Yes on 3, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Take care.